Andrews moves quickly into the ship's forward compartments for an inspection. What he sees is devastating. Titanic's hull plating has been dangerously pierced by the iceberg. While the ship was designed to survive some flooding, Andrews finds damage in the first 6 compartments. Andrews reports to Captain Smith. The ship has an hour and a half, maybe 2. The great ship Titanic is doomed. Inquiries into the disaster tried desperately to figure out how much damage the iceberg inflicted upon Titanic.
When the investigations into Titanic's loss convened, they were faced with a problem. The one person who could have told them the most about the ship and what had happened that night, Thomas Andrews, was lost.
Even testimony from survivors was riddled with contradictions and inconsistencies.
That's one of the difficulties in trying to determine what happened, is because as you look at each survivor's testimony, you'll find that each one has a different reaction to what happened.
There was one expert at the inquiry who believed he knew what happened. Naval architect Edward Wilding worked for the shipyard that built Titanic. Wilding proposed the key to understanding the damage could be found in the nature of the flooding. Titanic flooded unevenly in 6 compartments. To Wilding, this meant that each compartment suffered its own unique damage. Wilding also proposed to the investigators that the actual iceberg damage could be very, very small. The press, however, ignored him. Nearly everyone believed that the only thing that could destroy Titanic was a massive gash in her side.
The very well accepted London Graphic had a drawing of the hull showing 15 feet above the keel a big open wound.
This legend of the 300-foot gash has lasted for nearly a century. Matthias and the crew of Natil are retrieved from the icy North Atlantic after 9 hours of investigation. The answer to an old mystery is now within reach. Will they find that Titanic suffered a giant gash or the equivalent of pinpricks? How large was the damage that led to the ultimate destruction of the ship?
Well, here we're coming in. I'm going to come in.
Matthias and his assistant Stephen Derzenko comb through their data.
Right here, okay, and then right there. See that? Okay, we're just starting to see through the mud.
Oh, wow.
Right here. That's a deformation. That's something buried in there.
All right, so what do you think that is?
Well, we have 2 small deformations. two small distortions pretty close to each other.
Can we get, I guess, an approximate size of that?
That one's 5 feet, 5 to 6 feet. And boom, look at that. There's another one.
Yeah, it looks like the same thing.
Well, except it's longer. See it? It goes from here to here.
Two more punctures are discovered in Titanic's hull. For the next several hours, Matthias and Derzenko identify the damage to Titanic compartment by compartment. Then a new and startling picture begins to emerge with each piece of evidence. The great ship Titanic was not torn open by a giant gaping wound. Just as Edward Wilding predicted, a series of small holes caused the tragic disaster.
Okay, let's see. We have a small hole here near the bow.
As Matthias plots the cracks in Titanic's hull, he believes much of the damage is only as thin as a human finger.
2553 should be right here, and one right next to it here. Okay, then we have a 15-foot hole at 5699, just here, and 2549. Okay, so that's a 15-footer. It starts there, and it runs back. By being able to use our sonar and look through the mud, we've got some indication of a small hole here near the peak, two more small holes about 5 to 10 feet, fairly small here, in cargo hold number 1. And we got a larger hole here that extends back. It's on the order of 15 feet or so. And then we're seeing another 32-foot, approximately 32-foot separation that extends back here into cargo hold number 3. And then finally, the biggest hole is back in boiler room number 6. The separation runs all the way across, apparently back across this transverse bulkhead.
The night of the disaster, the iceberg buckled Titanic's plates and popped rivets. Incredibly, these small wounds started a pattern of flooding that led to the demise of the great ship. Matthias shares the news with naval architects Garsky and Livingstone.
Not a continuous sort of zipper or gash, not a long 300-foot type of opening.
Now other questions are being raised. With such a small amount of damage, just how did Titanic sink so quickly? Here, in the very place where Titanic was built, naval architects are unraveling the mystery of why Titanic sank so fast. How did such minor damage cause the unsinkable ship to founder in just over 2 hours? Working many long hours, 2 researchers have recreated the sinking, relying on Edward Wilding's testimony about the flooding.
Right, what have we got?
Hello, John. This is condition.
Naval architects John Bedford and Chris Hackett have created a computer model that uses many of Wilding's calculations. They agree with Wilding.